I didn't realize that, Danny. That's an interesting point. Because I don't know. Frankly, when I see the Launchpad Wars stuff, my eyes glaze over a little bit. It feels kind of tiresome. But are you saying that Let's Bonk was able to basically go to these people who are like deploying 100 pump fund tokens a day and also sniping them and making money that way and just saying, hey, we'll give you like a better rebate or something, and convincing them to use Let's Bonk, and that's what's been driving the like very sudden switch in rev? Yeah, I see you have the Launchpad revenue. Like that chart is pretty stark. So is that basically what happened in your understanding?
Yeah, so I don't have any specific details on like agreements that they might have made, but members of like, I think someone from the Radium team mentioned like, we've been working hard for the past few months to onboard these creators. And I think when they say creators, they mean like, the accounts that are making thousands of meme coins.
Yeah.
Which I think is largely, it's like algorithmic, right? Like you're creating tokens based on like news and events that happen automatically, because there's money in that. But just getting them to do it on your platform versus the other, and people are just going to trade the things that are viral and meaningful. So it doesn't really matter if it's a pump token or a bonk token. You just want to trade the thing that's going to maybe do a 10x because it's viral. But that's what it seems like has happened. Like, I don't know of any deals, but I mean, this shift has been quite significant. And there's another chart, I'd have to go find it, but Sharples on the data team showed a chart where the top token creators from Pump, there's like a direct inverse correlation in the amount of tokens that they've created on Pump versus created on Bonk Fun in the past week.
For what it's worth, I chatted with the Bonk team and they denied this. So I just want to put that out there so that no one's like upset with.
Why would they switch?
Well, they denied what? They denied deals, or
they denied deals.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Like I said, I don't know if there's any deals, but
is like a rebate on fees a deal though? Like, what do you mean by deal?
Yeah, so I clearly didn't go too far into this because I also don't want to be a dick to people who are like taking the time to answer me. But
yeah.
Regardless, they saw this as a weakness, right? Yeah. If you get the creators and they make all the tokens on your platform, then there's no reason to use Pump.
Yeah, there is also an argument to be made that some of it could be because like you mentioned, Danny, like the people who are launching the most tokens on Pump moved over to Bonk, and if there's like at least somewhat of organic traction on Bonk, that if people aren't buying that many coins on Pump anymore, if they're just not graduating at the same rate as they used to, you could see creators instead start launching on Bonk because the graduation rate is higher. They see that more people are interested. And anytime a new platform, I mean, speaking of like experience, anytime there's a new Launchpad that launches, you kind of want to buy at least I'm buying the first few tokens that I see because it's like one of them could be a winner. So I think maybe they were trying to catch on to that. And then eventually they saw that there was more and more graduation happening, more and more volumes happening, and they decided we'll just keep launching. So it doesn't, there's definitely rebates and some form of like BD work happening on the background. But I don't think it's I imagine it's not purely like BD work, and that they did also get some organic traction.
It's surprising too, because it's like, was Tron's Launchpad not like doing BD? Like I would suspect that Let's Bonk, which I hate is the name of this thing, but is not the first Launchpad to try to offer rebates to draw. Like there's been, a million of these, and this is why when Bonk flipped Pump, I was like, nothing burger. Every like 2 months we hear about the new Launchpad. Me and Ryan did a whole podcast about Believe, which the volumes have shrunk quite a bit since then, and so this is just going to be the same movie another time, but maybe something's different. I don't know.
Well, I think
I think it's
guys. Can we do the raise hand system from now on?
I'm a little laggy out, man. It's my bad. I'll unmute my mic from now on. It's a signal.
Go ahead, Bach. What are you saying?
Just to Jack, the Bonk is probably the most well-connected team within Solana, I imagine, or at least like top 5. So I think their network is probably also a lot better than Pasternak, despite the fact that he's a very cool guy. I don't know if he can pull off the same things that the Bonk guys can.
I think, and I think.
Go ahead. We all have thoughts. Go ahead.
I wouldn't say that the Launchpad stuff is very exciting, Jack. I strong pushback. This is the most exciting sector in crypto. It's where all the money's flowing, and it's you had this one dominant player that made the $500 million more like quicker than anyone, and it needs to develop this front end ecosystem. It hasn't done it, and now you're starting to see the consequences of that on the eve of its like token drop. Like that's pretty interesting. I think it's very exciting.
I want to go back to the data. Shout out to Sharples from the data team, because I think it digs into what Bach said as well about, when a new Launchpad comes around and you actually kind of want to go there immediately for the initial hype. And you actually see this, like when you look at Launchpad volume, like we can see back when LaunchLab launched, there was a little bit of a little, tiny little spike there. And then actually when Let's Bog Fun initially launched, it had a little bit of a pump there, and then a bump again, like maybe a week later. And it kind of died off in the past month and a half, 2 months. There wasn't much happening there relative to Pump Fun. But this shift was just like the recent 2-3 weeks, like basically from 0 to 100. They went from like no market share to the entire market, basically. And then the other part that I was going to show up that I mentioned, where you can see this same thing here, where we have the top Pump Fund token creators. So literally the accounts that are making all these tokens, like we can see that in both of those other events, they actually did the same thing, right? Like they were making fewer tokens on Pump, and they were making more tokens on the Radium Launch Lab product, which is also Bonk Fund by extension. So those are both reflected under the Launch Lab trend. But then in this past week, like just complete flip, like they were doing, 8,000 tokens on Pump Fund, and now they're doing, 6,000, 7,000 tokens on Launch Lab and like 1,000 tokens on Pump Fund. So they're just a complete shift of where they were doing these things.
Interesting. And look, Ryan, I'm not saying that it's not interesting what's going on. I just think that over the past year and a half, so I started writing Lightspeed, in May of 2024. I've written many Pump Fun articles, and it feels like like once a month, like clockwork, there's some new controversy. There's some new thing that's going to kill Pump. And so when I log on Sunday night and I see, hey, Let's Bonk is past Pump Fun in volume, it reminds me of, the Justin Sun Launchpad, the live stream controversy, Believe, like the million other things that were meant to unseat Pump Fun. So I think there's a world where we return to this in 2 weeks and Let's Bonk is just back at pretty marginal volumes relative to Pump Fun, and all the big token creators have switched back. Because I also just think that there are levers that Pump Fun could push if it needed to that it hasn't. So like Bonk can't create a new Bonk, but Pump Fun has Pump. And so if they said, hey, we're creating a points program, why don't you go aggressively farm our platform? I'm not saying it would be the best thing for them to do, but there are levers that people push in crypto that Pump has not pushed, and I think it still has tricks in its bag.